so abruptly. You wonder who sat here on this seat now stained with blood. Was it a pretty face that made this gaping, jagged hole in the windshield? Whose body came crashing against the steering wheel, twisting it with fear-crazed hands? There are clues, hints that it didn't start out to be a story with an ugly end. A still-tied shoe, almost new, ripped from the driver's foot at the moment of impact. Patent leather. A formal dance. A faded, stained program. It was the senior prom. A corsage. It might have been pressed in a family Bible, but now it lies wilted, shriveling in the sun. A grim reminder that for the girl who wore it, this was to be the last prom. The story really began long before this particular morning. The first chapter was written the day Bill Donovan scraped together the down payment for this car. From that day, the car became the focal point of his existence. He thought of little else but cars. A part-time job to meet car payments took precedence over schoolwork, and his grades suffered. Invariably, some last-minute tinkering with ignition or carburetor would cause him to be late. The adage that opposites attract was borne out by Bill's friend, Jim Miller. Above average grades, no interest in cars, but definitely an interest in a sophomore named Judy Grant.
Now, supposing that you are out on a date, and your boyfriend is driving too fast, is there anything that you can do about it? Judy? Judy!
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't hear the question.
I think you are already out on that date, Judy. All right, Sandy, what would you do?
Well, you could say something like, your foot's getting kind of heavy. Take it easy, something like that.
Good, Sandy. But I wonder now, how about you boys? Would you really slow down if your girl asked you to do that? Or just how would you react? Harrison?
Well, I guess it depends on who the girl was. I guess if I respected her, I would.
All right, Harrison, good. Does anyone else have any other ideas?
Some guys just might speed up to scare a girl, she said that.
All right.
There are over 10,000 high schools across the country offering driver training instruction. In many cities, the classroom phase of the course is mandatory for 10th graders. Statistics are proving that high school driver training reduces accident rates by 50% or more. Many insurance firms provide for reduced premiums for young drivers who have taken the training. There is increasing evidence that the mental makeup of the driver is more important than his skill. Good drivers possess the characteristics of emotional stability, sound judgment, and self-control, qualities which are cultivated in the courses.
Now, looking at teenagers as a group, the average young person has the best reflexes, the best eyesight. In fact, you know, you're on about the best physical condition. Everything points to the fact that you should be the best drivers on the road today. But what handicap, if any, do you think you teenagers possess? Tom?
I feel that even though we probably have a faster reaction time, we don't always react the right way, the way an older, more experienced driver might.
Good. I think what you're getting at, Tom, is that the teenager has the reflexes to be about the best driver on the road. But until he gains experience, he lacks judgment. All right, now, don't forget to read Chapter 9 on driver's attitudes.
Okay, I'll see you. Bye-bye. Listen, come on, we've got a few minutes, Sandy, and he wants to meet you.
Gosh, Judy, I don't know. Tom might get mad.
Let him get mad. You're not going steady. And besides, if you want to go to the prom, you have to go with a senior. You know that.
But I don't even know him.
So what? You never know any boy the first time he asks you out. And besides, he's got a neat car.
I know, but I've heard he drives awfully fast.
Will you stop worrying? He's okay. He's a good friend of Jim's. You know that. Oh, come on, or we'll miss him.
Okay, if you say so.
There is something symbolic about being invited to your first senior prom. It's like becoming grown up almost overnight. The invitation may come in a phone call while passing in the hall or even by arrangement. But no matter how, it'll be a moment to cherish and remember. Bill Donovan comes from a nice family, and basically Bill is a good boy. He has a preoccupation with cars, but then this isn't so unusual. His hands always look like a mechanic's, for it seemed he spent most of his time tinkering with the car. He'd wanted a car since he was 14. Now that he had it, he thought of nothing else. One thing for certain, the car hadn't helped his grades in school or his sense of timing. He was always running behind and depended on the car to make up the difference. Mrs. Donovan realized she was too lenient with him, but whenever she said anything, he always reminded her that, after all, it was his car. He was paying for it. She worried about his grades, and particularly about his fast driving. But she took consolation in the fact that, after all, his dad had taught him to drive. Blue jeans and a sweatshirt are what Sam Clark normally thinks of when he thinks of his boisterous 15-year-old daughter. But there's something magic that takes place when she goes to her first prom. Perhaps for the first time, he sees her as a young lady on the threshold of life, radiant, mature, like a butterfly unfolding its wings in the sun for that first flight. From somewhere deep in his memory, a familiar warning voice says, "Parents, know with whom your teenage son or daughter is riding." And for a fleeting instant, there's a feeling of misgiving. Who is this boy looking a little out of place in his summer tux? How well does he drive that car that he shined and polished for this occasion? Perhaps they should have said no. But who could now spoil the magic of this moment? There's little we can add to this scene. It needs no explanation, for it's one that's been reenacted literally 1,000,000 times on the American scene. Let's watch. It is a dangerous illusion that the youngsters who do become involved in traffic violations are always the incorrigibles of the delinquents. Statistics will bear out that the vast majority are decent, average American youth. Your sons and daughters, your neighbors' sons and daughters. Tender years and lack of experience prevents the teenager from being a safe driver, and sometimes from even understanding safety as an adult understands it. Bill Donovan doesn't plan to or want to be a bad driver. Normally shy, he's transformed behind the wheel of a car. In the car, he feels mature. He's master of the situation. Many of his driving habits can be traced directly to his father. You cannot ride with a man for 7 of his antisocial driving attitudes rub off. And if he also teaches you to drive, the bad habits will be embedded even deeper. The roads are filled with Bill Donovans. Good boys, but bad drivers. There is a similarity to all senior proms. Some are a little fancier than the rest, perhaps in a country club instead of the high school gym. But you can bet that each represents a great deal of effort, a class project to raise funds, a lot of ingenuity in the theme and decor, and a throng of happy kids wrapped up in a well-deserved celebration. There is another similarity to high school proms. There are always those couples, in spite of all efforts to make the dance a memorable event, who will slip away for a drive in search of more excitement. It's hard to explain. Perhaps an event so long anticipated could never live up to their expectations. Perhaps they seek just one more thrill to add to the memories of this all-important night. Or perhaps it's just plain cussedness. Many schools have done a good job of preventing it with parties that last all night, carefully calculated to drain the last ounce of teenage exuberance. But try as the planners might, the temptation is sometimes too great. There is a strange silence in those first few seconds after a wreck. Only the wail of sirens seems to break the stillness. The spectators are hushed, and even the sounds of the night are silenced, almost as if nature herself was uttering a silent prayer. And then, with the stirrings of consciousness, come the screams of the maimed, the moans of the dying.
They hit that big tree.
Look at that windshield. Somebody must have gone through it. Boy, they should have had seatbelts.
head hit that rock.
The onlookers stand quietly now in the presence of death. The flares cast an eerie glow on ashen faces. The statisticians could have predicted with deadly accuracy that during the 4 hours of the senior prom, 18 people would die on the highway. 640 would be injured. Now, these youngsters are a part of these statistics. Their names become a part of the police record. Another number will be added to the accident totals. In the quiet of an insurance office, actuarial tables will be changed. For the record books, a wreck is an ending. But to the victims and to their loved ones, it's also a beginning. A beginning of the silent suffering of those who will mourn the dead. It's a sometimes thankless job for the men who man the police and fire department emergency vehicles, and for the men and women who staff the emergency rooms of today's modern hospital. It falls their lot to patch together the broken pieces of our lives as we go on destroying ourselves on the nation's highways. Advances in medical technology have been continually reducing the death toll, even though the number of accidents tends to go up. And like the statisticians, the hospital staffs and the emergency crews can accurately predict when we'll have our accidents. On the weekends and holidays, and for the special occasions, like this senior prom, they prepare for us. Extra materials and blood plasma are on hand. Extra personnel are called in. And then they stand and wait. Their vigil is seldom in vain, for scarcely a day passes that they do not race with death as life slips away like sand through an hourglass. There are rich rewards for the doctor who works with emergency patients, had a part in patching together inevitably fail. And how do you explain failure to desperate, grief-stricken parents? How can you make them understand?
2 of our chairs are empty this morning. I think by now you probably all know the reason why. Sandy's chair will be empty a long time. And even when she comes back, carry the scars of that accident on her probably for the rest of her life. I want these 2 chairs to remain empty, even as this group leaves and another semester begins. I want these chairs to serve as a reminder to you and to classes that follow, and to myself, that statistics are not just numbers. It's real people they mean by those statistics, and it's not always the other guy. Those statistics could just as well have been you. I know we all feel very deeply about what has happened. As a driver training instructor, I have mixed emotions. I not only feel the loss of these 2 lovely girls, good students, nice people, but I feel that as a teacher, I have failed you. Over the weekend, I kept asking myself, what else should I have said? What other lesson could I teach? What other emphasis should I give? So that never again would I have empty chairs in my classroom. I also feel a deep responsibility. For after all, it's my job to put you behind the wheel of a car, to try to pound some safety into your heads, to give you the facts that'll make you better drivers. But somewhere, somehow, I failed these two girls. I failed the boys they rode with. Someone has once said that any lesson worth knowing may be the hardest one to learn. We have all learned a very valuable lesson from this experience. But dear God, the price was high.
In a few days, Bill Donovan will be graduating with the seniors of Woodward High. Like every graduate, the years will dim the hard-earned lessons. As the years go by, he may not remember even his teachers' names. But there'll be one lesson he will never forget. He will carry this memory with him as long as he lives. Sandy Clark is wearing her formal gown today. She wears a white orchid corsage. But few will realize this, for the lid of the casket was not open. It was best that way. In a few minutes, it'll be all over. Sandy Clark is taking her last ride.
Sgt Bruce reporting. This is a common sight. Lots of people crowded together on a busy corner. Some of them are in a hurry, others aren't. But regardless, they're not cutting in on each other, knocking each other off the street, running into each other, or in general creating accidents. This is because people have learned that by being courteous, they will get along better, get where they are going faster and safer. Mankind didn't read a book on manners and then decide it was proper to be courteous. They found out first that being courteous paid off, and then wrote the rules on manners. Then came the automobile, and people are having to learn all over again. The basic rules of courtesy are just the same, but something new and more dangerous has been added: weight and speed. Here's what we mean. A careless pedestrian ignores the possibility of an accident. He's being discourteous. He's being inconsiderate of the safety of others. Now, the combined weights of these two people probably is about 280 pounds, and their speed was about 2½ miles per hour. Add discourtesy to their total weight and speed, and the result equals a few small bruises, some spilled packages, and 2 disconcerted people. Not too serious. Now let's see what science has made possible. Our pedestrian is now a driver. He weighs about 165 pounds plus 1.5 tons of steel. And instead of 2½ miles an hour, he's doing around 20. Right now he's being discourteous, talking and not paying attention to his driving, disregarding the safety of everyone near him. Here's our other pedestrian. She too is now a driver. Total weight about 3,118 pounds, car and all. Her speed now is about 25 miles per hour, and she's following our discourteous driver. It was the same people in the same type of collision caused by the same discourteous attitude, but the results aren't quite the same. 6,283 pounds plus 10 times the speed plus discourtesy equals 2 smashed automobiles and 3 smashed people. They're in the hospital now and lucky to be alive. They have just contributed to some statistics that should shock every driver. More than 30,000 persons probably will die this year in the United States in traffic accidents, due largely to a lack of courtesy and consideration among motorists. Someone has been seriously injured here, perhaps crippled for life, because a discourteous driver wouldn't yield the right-of-way to a pedestrian. Some discourteous drivers will be spared accidents by careful drivers, but they can't win every time. I won't ask you your opinion of road hogs like this fellow up ahead, because your answer probably would not get by the censors. So why be a road hog? Instead of keeping to the right, this slow-moving, discourteous driver ahead is making it difficult for everyone. But our driver knows that it isn't safe for him to react discourteously. The driver who thoughtlessly stops in a crosswalk when it can be avoided needs a few lessons in courtesy and consideration. Mere observation of traffic rules alone is not enough to prevent accidents like this. There's an extra something needed, something called good manners. Like most basic problems, this one's solution is simple. Being courteous is a means of protecting yourself and making your driving problems easier. In the long run, it pays good dividends. It's the golden rule of the road. In being courteous to others, you're being kind to yourself, for the life you save may be your own.
What you're about to see is a confidential report to Chevrolet dealers and sales personnel to prove what a tremendous advantage our 1960 Chevrolet product has over competition this year. When you put a car through every conceivable punishment, when you match it a grueling kind of test that can be devised, Chevrolet consistently proves its stability, stamina, and lightning-fast response to its driver's commands. balance, stronger frames and bodies, better suspension, more precise control. These are the qualities that go to make a great car even greater. As this brilliant precision driving proves. Now for the toughest kind of body, frame, and suspension test you can think of. Watch this Chevy make its breathtaking leap from ramp to ramp. 2 tons of automobile leaping 65 feet through the air. And not only once, but time after time, we put the same car through this brutal punishment. Even though it splinters the ramp, the car is still undamaged. Now, a 3/4-ton Chevrolet pickup in a completely unexpected performance. The driver has missed the ramp. Look out! The driver is completely unscratched. Sheet metal and windshield are smashed on the truck, but otherwise it's undamaged. Imagine that. After hurtling through the air and landing on its front end, the frame isn't sprung, the suspension undamaged, and even the motor mounts are still intact. Brother, that's a test for any truck. Corvair now shows itself with a beautiful package of automobile it is, as it goes over the high skis and sets right up on its side. The Corvair has such a low center of gravity, not so good. The Falcon goes right up on its side and... But look at the gasoline pouring out. Remember the construction of the Falcon gas tank? Yes, the answer to our question, how well do our 1960 Chevy products measure up against the customer? Chevrolet in 1960 has unquestioned, unchallenged, undeniable superiority in make cars and truck weight. All I can...
Don't let this happen to you. Every 3 seconds in the United States, someone is killed or injured. Of those that die, 1 out of every 3 dies in a traffic accident. Don't take a chance on tires that blow out. You don't even need a blowout to have a serious accident. On a perfect highway or city street, within legal speed limits, emergencies can always happen. Don't take a chance on tires that won't stop you in time. Today, you are faced with 2 developments that literally force you to demand better than average tire protection. More and more high-speed, high-powered automobiles, more and more traffic, traveling on more high-speed city thoroughfares and highways. Add to these 2 conditions the other great demands made on tires today. Within a tire lifetime, it must hold up the weight of a car. Be driven at high speeds over highways so hot they'll fry an egg. Jammed against curbs. Plunged into sharp-edged chuckholes. Spun. Skidded in stone. Here is a $5,000 automobile. Take away the tires and what have you got? Nothing but a high-priced stationary engine. For a small percentage of the cost of the car, it becomes a luxurious means of personal transportation. But what do you know about tires? How much can you tell by looking at them, especially after they're on the wheel? We have safety checks for lights, but the tires, the most important thing on your car as far as your safety is concerned, how do we check them? This one looks all right, a lot of tread still on it, but is it the kind of tread that will stop you quickly? How do you know there isn't a break inside there that might have come from the kind of brake that every time the tire revolves causes loss of air? This happens in tires that 2 minutes before looked perfectly all right. What is your best assurance against unseen tire trouble? Here it is, the General Nygen tubeless tire, the one perfected tubeless tire. And here is what you get only on these brilliant new masterpieces of tire engineering. Protection against blowouts because the new General Nygen steel cables as shown in this test, lifting a 22-ton truck. Second, exclusive general puncture sealing compound, as shown in this cutaway. Next, this big exclusive, the safety pressure lock, with this built-in O-ring that forms a leak-proof pressure lock at the rim when the tire is inflated like this, assuring no air loss. And fourth, quick stopping protection on dry or wet pavement, with General's exclusive cross-tread squeegees for fast, straight-line stops, as proved in this dramatic test. First, the world's greatest stopping power. Here is a wide pavement reserved for this official test. 5 cars will come down it abreast, all the same make and model, and all being driven by test drivers. The only difference, one car is equipped with Gen tires, the other E and D. At the end of each test lane is the wooden cutout figure of a running boy, the kind sometimes used to mark school zones. The pavement has been wet to make it slippery. The signal to start. Here they come, picking up speed, till they are traveling near but not exceeding the legal limit. The signal for the brakes. Now watch. The one on General's came to a quick straight line stop. The running boy in front of it, where's A, stopped just as it hit the boy. B tires ran over its boy. B tires knocked the dummy's galley west. Of course, we all face emergencies when we have to drive fast. I say again, why take a chance on tires that will not win an emergency? Now for a comparison of strength. Only Generals are made with Nygen cord, the strongest, finest cord ever developed for tires. As steel is made from iron, Nygen is made from nylon, processed by General to resist heat, stretching, bruising, or breaking. General Nygen tubeless tires have up to 50% more cord than ordinary tires, more than twice the strength. That's why you get more safe miles with Generals than any other tire built today. Now watch this General Nygen tubeless tire test. Here's a concrete island with a 10-inch curve. We'll back up and hit it at 60 miles an hour. Going so fast, he went over a second island. A curve that high is like hitting an abutment. And yet you can see there is no sign of a break inside. Even with that terrific series of shocks, there was no air loss at the rim either, because of General's exclusive safety pressure lock. And the fourth big safety feature you get with General Nygen tubeless tires, freedom from flats, with an exclusive self-sealing latex compound inside that seals holes as it rolls. Yes, all this famous 4-way protection you'll find exclusively the General Nygen tubeless tire. 4-way protection so vitally important on today's high-speed highways in today's high-powered cars. Think how much more protection you get for the little extra you pay for Generals. Ordinary tires have a safety factor of from 5 to 7. The General tire with Nygen cord has a safety factor of 16.8, 2 to 3 times the strength and protection of ordinary tires. Don't tell me I don't drive fast. Ordinary tires are good enough. Sure, they're good enough, sitting in the garage. They may be even good enough at 35 miles an hour, if you're the only car on the road like that. If you're only doing 35 miles an hour, and the other fellow's doing 35, and you meet head-on in a skid or blowout, you come together at the rate of 70 miles an hour, which is the same as driving off a 10-story building. Ever see a car go off a 10-story building? Well, we thought the object lesson would be worth it. No driver will go over with it. The stuntman will jump clear, leaving only an old IMO camera bolted to the hood, ready to shoot its last scene. The parking lot below has been cleared and roped off. Everything's ready. Let her go! When you think of what might happen, why take a chance? It is worth a small difference in price. General Tires can save your life in an emergency.
You know that identifying critical objects, predicting conflicts, deciding on defensive actions, and executing these decisions on time are essential to accident-free driving. But sometimes conflicts develop so quickly, you'll have little more than a split second to accomplish the IPDE process. During this practice drive, try to improve your skills in quickly sizing up developing conflicts and executing split-second decisions to avoid accidents. Okay, let's get ready to back out of this parking space. Check left. And start backing. Check front clearance. Okay. All set? Let's leave this parking garage. Check right. Are you getting the idea of how quickly conflicts can develop, even in a confined area? When you reach the street, turn right. stranger getting into that car might have tipped you off to expect something like that. Did you identify that chain of events in time to make and execute a split-second decision? Check right. At the next intersection, turn left. By staying in this lane, you minimize potential conflicts. The street we'll follow bears slightly to the right ahead. Ducking behind the parked cars was the best way to avoid that conflict. Somebody just hit us from behind. Secure your car. At this point, your instructor may want to review with you what you should do when you're involved in an accident. Fortunately, your cars suffered no functional damage, and the officer was able to direct you to a place out of traffic to make his report. Start your engine and move up to the intersection. At the intersection, we'll turn right. Keep alert for fast-developing conflicts.
At the next intersection, turn right. The quickness and maneuverability of motorcycles can easily tempt their riders to try shortcuts like that. Often the initial evasive action is only part of the solution to avoiding an accident. In that situation, you had to make two split-second decisions to avoid the oncoming car and the car on your right. If you identified and reacted quickly to that chain reaction, you assisted the passing driver as well as yourself. When safe to do so, let's pass the car ahead. Swinging left was a good move. Braking alone might not have stopped you in time. This time, you reduce the threat to you and the passer by accelerating. At the next major intersection, we'll turn left. At the next intersection, turn right. Check left. Even though another sees you, don't take for granted that person will always yield the right-of-way. Sometimes another driver's split-second decision will force you to make one too. At the next intersection, turn right. At the first entrance beyond the railroad tracks, turn left into the Tyrone Square Shopping Center. Speeding up and moving into this turn bay kept you from possibly being rear-ended again. Let's look for a parking space in the next aisle, close to the stores. No space here. Turn left and try farther up. Try the next aisle on the left. Secure your car. You've seen how threats can develop quickly from any direction. By now, you should be more aware of the need for constant alertness all around your car, so you can quickly size up developing conflicts and execute the split-second decisions necessary to avoid accidents.
Sgt Bruce reporting. It's just about as easy to fill out a dead body report as it is a traffic ticket. And in many cases, the violation is the same: speed. I've been checking some figures for a report, and I'd like to show you what I've found. It's important to you. Look at these changes in the motor vehicle death rate of our population per 100,000 for the past 25 years. Between the ages of 5 and 14, there was a 37% drop. Between the ages of 25 and 44, a 25% increase. But get this, in the 15 to 24 year group, the increase was more than 85%. Those are the actual figures from the ages 15 to 24. An increase in deaths per 100,000 of 86%. Let's face it, a car in the hands of some teenagers today produces a serious problem. So serious has this problem become that we have a new word in our language. It's teenicide, a noun meaning death caused by an automobile driver under 20 years of age. And habits that cause teenicide seem to carry on with many drivers up to the age of 25. Now let's talk about teenicide a minute. Let's see why and what can be done about it. The teenager can do things the middle-aged group cannot hope to accomplish. His reactions are good, his eye is sharp, and he is definitely in better physical condition than the person between 40 and 50. Because of this, he can be a better driver. He sees better and can react more quickly than an older person. The teenager is at the time of his life when he learns the quickest and retains the most. He's at a learning period. It should therefore be easier to teach him good driving and make him a safe driver, not only now, but for the rest of his life. With ability, both mental and physical, at its peak at this period, something must be radically wrong when the teenager is not the best driver, but the worst. And I think we know what the answer is. It's lack of experience and training. Some teenage drivers get into the family car and learn to drive by trial and error. Mostly error, because frequently they learn from Dad himself, and Dad might not be such a good driver. Others learn from the kid who owns his rattle trap. He points it down the street and lets it go. That's one way of living dangerously, except the chances are you won't live very long. These teenagers are learning driving at school from the engine up. They're learning what makes the car run, and also how to run it, courteously and safely. They're not learning someone else's bad driving habits. They'll quickly realize that respect for the law and the officers who enforce it will save them from the serious consequences of a traffic smash-up. They'll learn that the traffic officer is there to protect them. If the teenager has excess spirit, this is the place to use it. Here, a crack up, even at top speed, is not too serious. But this same sort of enthusiasm has no place on a highway, no matter how clear the teenager's eyes or how quickly he reacts. The shocking statistics prove that. It has been proved that trained drivers have about one-half the accidents untrained drivers have. We know from statistics that with proper training, the teenagers will be among this country's better drivers. The solution of teenicide must be through proper driver education. Parents and teachers must act together. By so doing, the teenager will develop good driving habits before he learns the bad ones. Teenagers can't look to the older people for examples of good driving. Oldsters are a problem too. But teenagers can, without much effort, wipe out the word teenicide and become the first generation of good drivers this country has ever had. Sgt Bruce reporting. This is just about as busy and crowded as a street can get. Nerve-wracking crush of people, cars and trucks, all in a hurry to get somewhere. It's been called the asphalt jungle, and it looks just about that dangerous. In contrast to the city, here is what we call a rural area. It is peaceful, calm, and looks to be just about the safest place in the world, especially after a crowded city street. But don't let appearances fool you. A driver on this lonely highway has twice the chance of being killed as the driver in a traffic jam. And there's an unnecessary reason for it. Speed. No one would think of traveling fast in a traffic jam. In the first place, it usually isn't possible. But out on the open highway, the tendency is to get out and travel. And that's where the trouble comes in. Naturally, the majority of deaths on the highway are to drivers and passengers, not pedestrians. So in highway driving, we'll concern ourselves with the driver. Now, I mentioned that no driver would think of traveling as fast in a crowded street as he does in an open highway. The trouble is, an open highway can soon become a crowded street. Like this. These cars happen to be passing a certain spot on a highway at the same instant. Therefore, that spot can be called crowded. A car traveling at 50 miles an hour, trying to get through this vacant traffic lane, would be taking a pretty big chance. A simple error by any one of the four drivers could cause a fatal smash-up. Speed is the biggest contributing factor in fatal accidents. And on an open highway, the chances are speed will be present. Now here is a 3-lane open highway. That gives us 1 lane in each direction and 1 in the middle to argue over. Again, we have the condition of cars in close proximity and probably traveling at a high rate of speed. As before, we can call this particular spot a piece of crowded highway. If you are behind the car doing the passing in the middle lane, stay at a respectful distance behind until the middle lane is clear again. And always remember, whether a 2, 3, or 4-lane highway, give yourself plenty of room to pass. For instance, if this driver has misjudged the speed of the oncoming car, he's in trouble. See what I mean? Any one of these cars could have been involved in a fatal accident. There are a few simple rules for passing other cars on an open highway. Simple but important. This driver is smart. He'd rather wait on a blind curve and pass on the straightaway than end up in a hospital, another highway casualty. This driver makes it an ironclad rule never to pass when approaching the crest of a hill. He waits until a view of clear highway assures him of safety, and then passes. He knows that passing at an intersection is dangerous, and that weaving in and out of traffic and cutting in quickly are shortcuts to the morgue. Never forget in passing, you're coming close to another car. The driver of that car may not know you're trying to pass. So if you're not sure you can make it, don't try. There is also the possibility that the driver ahead of you will try to pass, like this. Don't be too anxious to close up the gap. He may have misjudged the speed of approaching cars and will have to drop back into line. If there is no space to drop back in, there will be a smash-up. If you're a city driver, don't forget that country driving presents different problems. If you're tired, long stretches of highway may put you to sleep. And before you know it, you're another highway tragedy. When sleepy, stop for a cup of coffee. Or better yet, pull off the road and take a short nap. In general, don't forget, in highway driving, your average speed is much faster, and an accident can be much more severe. Never drive too fast for road and traffic conditions. And always give yourself plenty of room to pass. And above all, if you're not sure you can make it, don't take the chance. Sgt Bruce reporting.
When can I turn?
Plenty of drivers today are just as puzzled as lefties. The quick and easy answer is, you can turn left whenever you have the right of way. But just what is the right of way? And just when do you have it? That's the $64 question. This wasn't the answer. Who had the right of way here? Somebody didn't know. The lawyers will fight it out in court. Another bad answer. Nobody wins but the undertaker. Every one of these tragedies was needless. The drivers either didn't have the right of way, or the other fellow didn't know it. Most people learn the hard way. Suppose we try a shortcut. Sit down anywhere. This won't take long. Let's look at the law. Now, most statute books put it like this. A car wishing to turn left shall yield the right of way to all approaching vehicles which are A, already within the intersection, or B, so close as to be an immediate hazard. Note that key word, yield. It means wait for. Now, here's how it works out. Lefty here has announced his intentions to turn left across the traffic. But he must first yield the right of way to whatever cars are already in the intersection. And he must continue yielding, waiting for, All cars which are an immediate hazard, those which cannot stop comfortably before they reach his position. So much for when you cannot turn. But Lefty wants to know when he can turn. Okay, let's oblige the gentleman. But let's do it with models. The fenders are cheaper. Now here's Lefty. He's made his hand signal and is in position to make his turn. He yields to the cars which are already within the intersection. He looks up ahead and waits also for the cars which were an immediate hazard, that is, already within the danger zone. Now he has legally earned his right of way, and it becomes the duty of the others to wait for Lefty. These approaching cars, which were beyond the danger zone when Lefty showed his intentions, must now yield to the turning car, even though they have since traveled into the danger zone. They had ample time to stop comfortably and weren't an immediate hazard when Lefty swung into turning position. Of course, the graveyards are full of drivers who were legally dead right. Now they're just dead. So before you push your grill work out into the line of fire, be certain the approaching cars see your signal and are slowing down to permit your turn. Authorities all agree that it's better to lose a minute than to lose your life. Now this danger zone is as flexible as an accordion. Its depth varies with speed, light, and weather. See where that bus is now? About 150 feet. For this situation, that's about right. This is a business district where the cars are moving at a top of 25 miles per hour, and the 150 feet is a comfortable stopping distance. But here's a high-speed highway on the outskirts of town, complicated further by a curve ahead. Out here, the cars are really rolling, and the safe stopping distance becomes a lot longer. Before you die defending your right of way, let's be sure you understand this danger zone. For example, short in business districts like this, where the traffic moves slowly. Deeper out in the suburbs, where the cars step along faster. Very deep out on a high-speed highway. When turning, remember, yield to all cars within the intersection, and all cars which are in the danger zone. Now it's your turn.
Dear Margot, they finally released me from the hospital, and now I'm home again. But in a way, I almost wish I had died in there. Would have been easier, perhaps. When I think what happened to Nick, and well,
hey, hurry up, man.
I can look from my window and see all the rest of the gang having fun. Oh, called having fun. But I've had my last date. Who would want to go out with me now? Not even Larry. Some of the fault was mine, I know. And yet, it all started so innocently. The day of the big football game. Andersonville High was playing the Mooseheart team that day, and both Larry and Nick were wonderful. Nick made 2 touchdowns himself. Oh, it was terribly exciting. But then after the game, when Kathy Robbins, she's my best friend, and I were waiting outside the stadium dressing room for Nick and Larry, she made me think a little by something she said.
Oh, wasn't he wonderful, Kathy? Who, Nick? Oh, yes, he's quite a flash. But did you notice who ran interference for him? Larry, your other boyfriend, remember?
He did? Oh, of course, I should have known. But they're both so... What was the problem to decide which one I liked the best?
Gee, I wish I had that kind of a problem. Which one of them are you going to let take you home, Jeannie?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't decided. Of course, Nick has a hot rod car his father gave him last week. Sure is snazzy.
Yes, but the way he drives.
Nick's a good driver. Why, his own father showed him how. Of course, he may be a little reckless, but...
Well, I wouldn't ride with him for all the tea in China.
Tea doesn't come from China, silly. It comes from Ceylon or somewhere. Yes, I was rather sure of myself that day. It was wonderful to have my choice between the 2 most popular boys in school. And then Larry and Nick came out. And I was faced with a decision.
If that center wasn't
Which would I let take me home? I like them both about the same.
How'd you like the game, Jeannie?
Oh, it was super, Nick. You were wonderful.
Especially behind the interference you had.
Well, don't think I don't appreciate it. Larry here did a swell job of mowing them down.
They weren't too tough.
Well, from where we sat, it looked as though you were opening up holes big enough to drive a truck through.
Hey, that reminds me. How would you all like to take a ride in my new monster? My dad gave it to me last week. It's really a souped-up hot rod. Do better than 90 without even half trying.
Oh, I'd love that.
But, Gene, I thought we'd... Well, that is, I thought we were going to... Well, anyway, I can't join you. I have the family car here, and I have to take it home.
You better count me out, too. I've had 1 ride with this candidate for teenicide. I don't think I could stand another one.
Candidate for what?
Teenicide. Don't you ever listen to Dan Bacon, the disc jockey on the radio? He talks about it all the time. He calls it the fine art of killing yourself before you're 20. You do it with an automobile. He says all you have to do is treat everyone else on the road like an unwanted relative or a mother-in-law. Forget all you've ever learned about being polite and considerate to others, and you'll make it. That's what the man says, and I believe him. Come on, Larry, take me home, huh?
So long, kids.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Now, what do you suppose got into her? Teenicide. That's a lot of nonsense. Besides, my old man taught me how to drive. Gotta see the way he can wheel a car around. Never had an accident yet. He's only been arrested 3 times. Oh, beautiful. Shall we be off into the wild blue yonder? Come on, I'll give you a real ride.
It was a real ride, all right. We went the long way out along the turnpike, and we went fast. By the time we got to my house, I was windblown and almost exhausted because the way Nick drove was, well, pretty frightening. Still, it was thrilling, too. Nick wanted a date for that evening to go dancing at the lake, but I turned him down. Somehow I felt uneasy about riding with him at night. He didn't take it very well. He was angry as he went away. And then, as I started into the house, I got a big surprise. Larry was sitting on our porch swing waiting for me. Larry! What in the world are you doing here?
I had to talk to you, Jean. And, well, your mother said I could wait for you and then stay for dinner. Where have you been?
Nick and I took the long way home. He's a terrific driver.
I see. Sit down for a minute.
All right. No. What was it that you wanted to talk to me about that's so important?
Well, look, you remember what Kathy told us about teenicide this afternoon?
Yes, I remember. Nick thought it was pretty silly.
Yes, I expected he would. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Jean, I wish you wouldn't ride in that hot rod of Nick's. I mean, the way he drives, it's dangerous.
Now, just a minute, Mr. Larry Gray. I think you're jealous, that's all. How possessive can a man be? You don't own me.
No, I don't. But I hope to someday. And I want you all in one piece. Look, I'm not a square or a killjoy. You know that. And if I wanted to, I could drive faster and crazier than Nick or any other hot rod guy in the world. But it's plain stupid for my money to risk your own life and the lives of a lot of other people just to show off the fact that you can operate a car. Any kid can drive an automobile. What's so special about it? I'm sorry. It's just that I like you so much that I don't want anything to happen to you. Gee. Oh, gee.
All right, children. Dinner's ready.
Yes, it almost turned into a quarrel. But I was really touched by Larry's concern about me. And more than that, I had another feeling. He was sweet. So, after dinner, Larry went home to change his clothes. I had agreed to go with him to the lake for a few dances at the casino. I put on my prettiest dress. Oh, it was a lovely evening. And somehow Larry looked awfully handsome. More so than I'd ever seen him before. Oh, it was nice to know someone cared so much about me. Certainly was a lot different riding with Larry than it had been with Nick. You drive like a slowpoke. You ought to take lessons from Nick. He really goes.
Yeah, I know. I've seen him.
Oh, hurry up. You can beat that red light.
Maybe. But maybe somebody else on the side street is trying to beat it, too.
Why don't you pass that car ahead of us?
Because, darling, I don't want to go over the speed limit.
Oh, for goodness sakes, we'll never get to the lake at this rate. Lovely music, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a nice night, too. Moon and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And now we bring you that man who spins platters while he chins and chatters, Dan Bacon.
Good evening,
Hey, that's the
all.
disc jockey
Yes,
Kathy was
this is
talking
Bacon.
about this afternoon.
Without the eggs, I hope. And I've got a lot of shellac to twist tonight. But before we start, I want a word with any of you teenage ladies and gentlemen who may be listening. You're all such nice kids. But tell me, are you still alive? You are? Good. Then you haven't committed teenicide yet, have you? What is teenicide? Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Teenicide is the fine art of killing yourself and maybe somebody else before you reach the age of 20. You do it with an automobile. It's easy, really. All you have to do...
He's corny. Besides, I think you knew he was going to be on that station, so you deliberately... Oh, I'm sick and tired of hearing about this teenicide thing. hurry up, will you? The dance will be over before we get there. But Larry didn't hurry. He stayed strictly within the speed limit. I suppose I was pretty unreasonable about the whole thing. But to me then, it seemed like much ado about nothing at all. When we got to the Lake Casino, I stopped being mad. Hearing the music, I wanted to dance and have fun. Larry's a marvelous dancer, and I was glad we'd gone there. He was a darling. He even tried to kiss me while we were dancing. But suddenly, I opened my eyes and there was Nick.
Pardon me, may I cut in?
Nick.
Oh, hi, Nick. Didn't expect to see you here.
No, I expect you didn't. May I have a dance with your girl?
Well, sure, if she's willing. But just one dance, mister.
That's all I want. One dance.
Nick was furious with me. Why had I refused a date with him and then gone out with Larry? I didn't have any excuse, but his attitude made me miserable. The whole evening was spoiled. After a while, though, he got over his mad a little, and finally we made up. And all was forgiven.
Come and take a little ride around the lake?
Oh, I couldn't do that. Larry's waiting to dance with me.
He's over there talking to a bunch of the guys on the team. It'll only take about 15 minutes. He'll never even miss you.
Well, I felt I did owe Nick some consideration for having gone out with Larry instead of him. And on an impulse, I agreed to take a short ride. Not more than 15 minutes. Not more than 15 minutes. Please don't drive quite as fast as you did this afternoon, Nicky.
What's the matter? You've been listening to that teenicide nonsense some more? I've been driving since I was 12 years old. Like I told you before, my own father taught me all the tricks.
Be careful, Nick.
Don't worry, there's nothing to it. Watch this. Just give him the horn, make him get out of the way.
There wasn't any doubt that Nick knew how to handle a car. But I couldn't help remembering something.
Teenicide is the fine art of killing yourself and maybe somebody else before you reach the age of 20. You do it with an automobile. It's easy, really.
Do you have to take corners on two wheels?
Why not? Two wheels are better than none. That's what my old man always says.
Please, Nicky. At the second red light, you run.
Oh, those things are for old women and scaredy cats. I know what I'm doing.
Why don't you let that car behind you pass us? We're in no hurry.
I'm always in a hurry, honey. Always in a hurry. Watch me make this baby walk away from him.
Teenicide is the fine art of killing yourself and maybe somebody else before you reach the age of 20.
You do it with an automobile. Teenicide, 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 teenicide.
That blasted truck. Talk to him.
Oh, no, Nick, no, not on a curve. There's another car coming. No, no, Nick, look out!
My face. My face. My face. My face.
So you see, it would have been better if I had died in the hospital than to look the way I do. I couldn't even go to Nick's funeral. Or the funerals of all those people in the other car. And as I said before, I've had my last day. Oh.